lighting specifier, it would be super unusual if the lighting agent person providing you with spec assistance or a sample of a lumen core downlight by Lumenpulse also happened to have more Instagram followers than almost every professional athlete in your city. But that's exactly what's happening in Charlotte, North Carolina. You see, Kenny Barnes of Team Lighting, the North Carolina agent for Hubble Lighting, Williams, Lumenpulse, Crestron, and other leading brands, gained fame for being on one of Netflix's highest rated shows in 2020. Love is Blind is a reality dating show based on the premise of exploring if it's possible to fall in love with someone without ever meeting face to face. Kenny and Kelly got engaged, but ultimately didn't get married. So to help us explore the intersection of reality show fame and architectural lighting sales, we're pleased to be joined today by Kenny Barnes. Kenny, hello, and thank you for joining us today for 5 Big Questions.
Hey, Al, it's a pleasure to be on. Again, thank you so much for the invitation, and just really excited about having a conversation with you.
Well, thank you, Kenny. And I have not 5 questions, but like a million questions for you about Barnett and Amber, Cameron and Lauren, and don't get me started on Jessica, but I'll try to keep it professional here. As a lighting guy with projects and priorities that you're constantly juggling, how were you able to take 2 months off and put things on pause to be part of a reality show?
Well, before I get into that, did you say 2 months off?
I thought so. Was it more than that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of like my entire life shifted a little bit, right? Not to be too dramatic. Yeah, the short and sweet answer is it was very difficult. I guess to get into the specifics, it was technically 46 days of filming that we dealt with production. That started with the 12 days on set. So as everyone from a viewer's perspective learned as they watched the show, that was the dating pod sequence of it. And then we went into the romantic getaway, which we went to Cancun, and then returned to reality. And that's where we actually all lived with each other for about 30 days. So it was actually for an entire month. So if you break it down, it was 12 days on set, about 3.5, 4 days in Cancun, which was the romantic getaway, and then 30 days where we actually lived in the same apartment complex. And we're supposed to return to our, in quotes, reality. But again, respective for each other. So it was like, I went back to work, did my, role in specification sales, but every other member of the cast was supposed to return to whatever they were supposed to be doing. So pretty wild format as you look at it from the micro and the macro perspective.
Yeah, amazing. And you're right, because the relationship side and all the living in the same proximity and going about your daily lives, that's a lot to juggle. And gosh, I just can't imagine doing all that. And when you look at, and I watched the After the Altar reunion show as well. And, people have all gone into different directions, and some got married and some didn't. And, I look at some of the people, and not just your reality show, but other reality shows often parlay that reality show fame into being a TV personality of some sorts, or a spokesperson or an influencer. Was that ever a consideration, or is it a consideration for you?
That's a great question. Actually asked a lot, typically by my friends, and then people I'll meet, out wherever, right? Just doing normal things on the weekend with my fiance or walking our dog. It was never kind of in the cards for me. And I think it was just more of just where my mindset was as I committed to going on the show. I don't consider myself a, again, quote unquote, influenced by any means. But I do, take interest in select things. And so I guess as you look back at the expectations of what was to come from participating in Love is Blind, no one could have prepared themselves. And I'd say no one, especially the castmates, no one could have prepared ourselves for what happened and how big Love is Blind actually became. So, for me, it was always if I have an opportunity to work with a brand or work with another company that's, very much, on brand with my lifestyle, it kind of makes it easy, right? It makes it organic, which is a cliche approach for most influencers. It probably, in the third or fourth bullet point that they read, right? It's like, this is an organic partnership. But for me, it just, as long as it was effortless and as long as it didn't require too much work, I was all for it. So I've been fortunate to have been given opportunities that are similar to that. But definitely just, I don't have the time, I'd say the talent or the patience to be a true, I'd say Instagram or Facebook influencer.
That makes a lot of sense. And even what you said about it, it was the first season of this, and maybe it was aided by the COVID shutdown happening simultaneously to your premiere. But yeah, if you join another reality show with 20 years history of being a top show, you know you're going to be famous. This one, you might not have realized it was going to be such a major hit. And here you are now, a recognizable face and possibly named to many who stroll the streets and see you. And when you think about, some of the side effects of that reality show fame, is there anything unusual that's happened in your professional life that's been affected by people knowing who you are and a little bit about your history?
Yeah. So as far as unusual, I wouldn't say it kind of falls in line with that. You definitely get recognized. I will say that our line of work, and this definitely kind of is, I don't know, I think a great reflection of the professionals that work within our industry, which is very niche. But as people that are heavily involved with and understand that, I think that sense of family and sense of community is very much there. So unusual, not so much. Again, you get recognized on Teams calls, or if you go out to a job site, right? And, usually it's at some middle point of the meeting, or even as you close out. It just depends on how polite people are being. They'll kind of step you aside. It's like, hey, by the way, like, are you that guy? And I'm like, well, initially it was like, I was kind of reluctant to jump in and say it, because I didn't want people to either use it as a negative or positive. I just kind of wanted people to know me as who I am, and as any of the resource that I might be able to provide to that particular job. But as time has gone on, I usually just kind of like look at them and say, yeah, I am. Like, I appreciate you being cool about it. And the whole thing is just it's a fun experience, right? And that's my main takeaway, is just to the fact that I was able to participate in it was an honor. I try to conduct myself as best I could for myself, for my family, for my friends. And I think that's a good thing. It's usually an easier interaction for me, just because of the character that, I was shown as, which was about as much in line with, who I am in comparison to the other, castmates on the show. So all things considered, it's usually well received. It's usually just a fun, give and take with some banter.
Yeah, it makes sense. And yeah, it's got to be fun to be recognized. And glad that nothing like crazy happened, because, when you're an agency salesperson, you have your name on the website and people can track you down who might be a little more obsessed with reality show contestants than the average person.
Yeah.
So glad that hasn't happened. And I'm not trying to give anyone any ideas. But how about on the positive side? Have you been able to, in a responsible way, and not just trying to be throw your name around, but in a humble way, have you been able to leverage your reality show fame in a way that helps you some way, get appointments or anything else?
So yeah, I haven't leveraged it to a degree that I think a lot of people might, from a different perspective, right? And not to use poor choice of words, but kind of from like an ignorant perspective. A lot of times people attribute, the number of followers, to, oh, well, that's going to equate to you can do whatever you want. It's going to open up doors. I've leveraged it personally, again, kind of going back to the brands that I've partnered with, just for, some static posts on Instagram. As it relates to professional, I would say the leverage part comes into working with local venues. So, trying to come up with creative ways to get to get Team Lighting's name out there, to get brand recognition, to use our client base that's local. Again, tying in the diverse landscape that is our industry. My main focus is just trying to streamline all those together. So if I could, reach out to a venue and leverage my followership, but then put us in a good position as an agency to have an event at a brewery, and maybe, again, it depends on what's agreed upon, but if they waive the deposit fee or give us some type of discount, to me that's a win-win, because it does benefit the agency, and it's a good way, right, for everyone within our industry to have fun. And that's really what I'm always focused on, is just if it's something that can benefit everyone else that's involved, might as well use it. So
yeah, no, it makes total sense. And yeah, last time I checked, you had like close to 500,000 Instagram followers, which in the professional athlete reference I mentioned during the introduction, the only three that I could find in North Carolina professional sports athletes are Lonzo Ball, Gordon Hayward, and Christian McCaffrey, like three total stars in your city, and you have more Instagram followers than every other pro athlete in town. So that's amazing. And when you look at the reality show, and I was interested to hear your comments about how the editors made you look in the final cut versus your personality. And frankly, there were some storylines, not yours and Kelly's, but others that got really detailed and possibly into intimacy issues and things like that. Yours was really more G and PG rated than others. So from that standpoint, though, you still lose a little bit of your privacy when you're on a show like this. And has putting yourself out there affected you in a way that, whether it's professional or personal, that you didn't expect?
So it's a very tough way to answer that, because I did just tell you that we had no idea what to expect, but you also are aware of what you signed up for. So every time I answer this, it's I think a lot of times people are surprised, because I try to approach most things with as level head as I possibly can, but also having the humility of knowing that there's a lot of things that are going to come that I'm not really prepared for, but I'll do my best to navigate. So as far as giving up your privacy, I think part of it was just, the only way you could protect yourself in an environment that's unknown is just to be true to who you are. And again, it's nothing different than what most people would say, but I felt like I practiced that pretty well. And I think a lot of that also is attributed to just how much I appreciate my friends and family and want to represent myself, but really the community of people that support me, because that's what life's all about, right? It's I can say one thing one day, but I don't want that one statement to disrupt someone's day. I don't want it to get spun the wrong way, or I don't want to have a point of view that could somewhat be harmful to others. I am who I am, but I also am not out to create drama, which is it's no secret for everyone that's watched the series. I was probably the least dramatic person on there, and I have no problem admitting. It was kind of done deliberately, because that's who I am. Like, there were plenty of opportunities, as you would imagine, as anyone else would imagine, while we're on set, while we're off set, while you're traveling, to kind of get in there and have your two cents, or say something, right, as like, here's a little jab. But it's nothing that I would do outside of the confines, right, of filming. And so at that time, I just kind of decided, I was like, I could be goofy, and I could use my personality, and I've got wit, and I've got a decent sense of humor. But there were just times where it's like, all right, what's the risk versus reward? Do I get in there and it gets spun and it's taken completely out of context, or I just kind of stay on the sidelines and focus on what I'm doing there? So that definitely I think paid dividends for me, just because I didn't really give production too many opportunities to spin stuff a different way.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And gosh, when you think about that whole timeline you mapped out at the top of our discussion, and how many hours and hours and hours of camera time you had, just one 10-second moment of bad judgment and a soundbite could have really impacted your world in a negative way. And I'm glad that those things didn't happen really for anybody, but especially you. So that's good news there. So I've asked my 5 questions, but I'm sure most of the Inside Lighting audience has seen your exclusive engagement photos on People magazine. You're engaged. The show was filmed in 2018. So since then, you went back into the dating world. And tell us about your fiance, Alexandra.
Yeah, well, Alexandra is 100% my better half. There's no joking about that. I met her through my younger sister, Anna. She lived in Charlotte at the time. I was still in Atlanta. Filming had wrapped up, I think, like 6 months prior. So I was just kind of in no man's land, just trying to settle down and get back to some type of normalcy. And, met Alex, God, that would have been June 29th of 2019. So filming wrapped up November of 2018. And then I met her June of 2019. So yeah, about 6-7 months. My math's pretty bad right now. It's been end of the day. But so Alex and I live in South End Charlotte. She works for a local tech company, and she's a phenomenal human being. Definitely makes me focus on being the best version of myself every day, and she definitely keeps me in line too.
Well, I'm happy for you both, and I'm happy to have caught up with you on this discussion. And I'm fascinated by your reality show fame and how you're able to map that out on top of a lighting career. It's an interesting mix, and I applaud you for the way you've handled everything, Kenny, and I wish you and Alex the best moving forward. So thank you for joining us today for 5 big questions.
Now, hey, thank you so much, Al. I hope you have a good one. We'll catch up soon.
Hey there, we really enjoyed that discussion. We hope that you did as well. Be sure to click that big LED logo next to me, and what that'll do is subscribe you to our YouTube channel so you don't miss the next 5 Big Questions interview. And YouTube subscribers always receive an early preview to the next interview before we even post it on the Inside Lighting website. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.